Hey everybody, it's Angela and I'm back with another process video, and this one is going to be using some old supplies. This is a page kit that I got from Cosmo Cricket. Well, I got it from Tuesday Morning, but it's by Cosmo Cricket, called Art Angel, and it is actually, I believe it was a 2013 release, and I got it a long time ago and I've never broken into it, so I was glad to be able to pull this out of my stash and play with it. And I'm just showing you, it came with this little tag pack, and then it also had some chipboard pieces, a small sticker sheet, that's the sticker sheet, the papers, and I believe a set of stamps. Those are the chipboard. Really cute collection with little girl images on it and a lot about creating and stuff like that. Really bright colors, lots of reds and teals and browns, so a little different color palette than I normally use now. So that was going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I actually had a photo of my granddaughter that I wanted to use, that had been, this one here, that had been filtered when my stepdaughter put it up on Facebook. So the filtering that was used on that photo just seemed to really match the colors in this collection. So I thought that would be fun. And so I'm just going through here trying to figure out, what I would use. And there is that pink paper, which is nice, and that kind of white paper, which I can use as a background. And then I pulled some other stuff out of my stash. Half of this I don't wind up using. I've got some thickers, some cork stars, some jelly bean soup, wood grain bags, these recollection butterflies, some fabric covered brads that are Cosmo Cricket but from a different collection. And then I also pull out my dies because I don't have any florals to match this or anything else, so I wanted to play with the dies. And so you can see here I've got a tonic die, spellbinders, the Desire, some hot off the press, and some other random dies from my die stash. And I'm just going to take one of each of the papers and kind of cut them in half and use them to just run a bunch of die cuts through. And what I do is I take like all the flowers that I have and I lay them all out on the platform, and so I cut a bunch of flowers all in one pass. So it doesn't take long. If you have duplicates or multiples of a die, you can kind of cut everything all at once, which is kind of nice. So I save you from having to watch me cut those out, and I kind of assemble some of them off screen. I just kind of stack the flowers and glue them together, and you'll see here in a second. There I cut the papers in half, which is what I'll use. I just use one paper that I cut in half because this collection had, I think, 3 of each design. So that leaves me 2 more full sheets to use as background papers and stuff. So there is the Swiss cheese that I made out of those small sheets, and I decide to go ahead and use some of that to map my photo. So I'm just kind of trying to use as much as I can. So I put the light color around it first, and then I put this stronger red color, and I'm going to use that kind of off-white beigey textured piece as my background. And I cut this piece first, and as I'm matting it here, as I'm gluing it together, it kind of bothered me only having a portion of that showing, so I do wind up getting another offcut of the red and putting a matte border all the way around my photo, because you can see here I only have a portion, the right and bottom side of it being red, and it's such a strong color that it was just kind of throwing me off having just that little tiny portion of it. And so I try to cut it down, and then it looked weird just having one side, so I try to reposition it, and I'm like, no, it really needs to have the red go all the way around the photo. So I grab another piece here. I'm just going to go ahead and mat a very thin border of that all the way around. And you can see up in the top left-hand corner where I've kind of assembled my flowers and my die cuts all across the top there, so I know what I have to choose from. And I think those colors are really going to pop against this beige color paper. But this paper was wrinkled. You can see in that bottom right corner it had gotten damaged at some point. So I thought, you know what, in order to kind of hide that damage, I wanted to go ahead and back this layout with another color. So I just ripped off a portion. And then this is one of my other favorite papers from this collection, this kind of tealy colored one. So I want that one to kind of poke out on the side of the layout. So I'm just going to fold this over. Since it's a double-sided paper, if you kind of ruffle the edge, you can see just a hint of that red showing up from the background. So I'm just kind of making sure that my layout is 12 by 12. And then backing that. At first I'm going to put it on the right, and I'm like, no, it needs to be on the left, and then she's kind of looking toward the right. So those are the flowers, and I just took I just die cut a bunch of flowers, then I layered them together with some hot glue to make those flowers. And then here are the other things that I had die cut out. And I want to have some kind of doily sticking out there on the right. Not sure if I want to have the red or the blue. I cut one of each. That red was just a little bit too strong. So I wanted something a little lacier over there, but I wanted to make a cluster kind of going off from that torn edge. So I play around with this for a little while. I want that to be kind of a secondary cluster over there on the left. So I look at some of my other smaller lacier die cuts, and I take that one and I just put a little bit of that peeking out from the edge. And I go ahead and I use the kind of darker teal, so it's a little more subtle. So that's going to be tucked under there. So I'm liking how this is coming together. I look through, I have a lot of little foliage pieces, so I want to kind of sprinkle those around. And at first I'm thinking of not putting much of that brown color paper. I did cut out some foliage in the brown, and I don't use it, but then when I realized, you know, I had chosen a lot of other brown things to go with this collection. I had done the brown thickers, the cork stars, and some other things that were brown. I thought, you know what, I better incorporate some brown. Because at first I'm thinking, no, I'm going to get rid of the brown totally. And then I'm like, no, it needs to have some brown. So I go ahead and I put the brown bow, the brown foliage in there. I have these Bow Bunny tab dies, and I want to use one of those. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out where I want it to be. And I kind of like it tucked there, coming down from below those flowers. So I just try to decide which color I want to use, and that one just kind of pops, so I like that. And then I'm like, wow, I've used all my die cuts, but I haven't broken into my actual supplies yet. So yeah, so far I've only used paper and my die cuts to make what I've already got there. So you can see you can do a lot if you have some die cuts and some paper. You know, you can make a lot of your own embellishments without, you know, really having to dip into your other supplies. Now these are some corrugated words that I think were left over from a Scraptastic kit. I used to subscribe to Scraptastic a long time ago, and these were probably ones that just didn't get used up. So I like the brown color and the kind of corrugated texture they have. So I wanted to go ahead and use those. The thickers I had pulled that were craft colored were just a little bit too big after all these flowers and stuff I already made. So I kind of like the size of the Love You. And this is kind of just an everyday photo. She's just playing at her little activity table, and she's got like a cookie sheet with a bunch of Play-Doh on it, and she's got her frilly dress and her ball cap on backwards. So so she's really kind of tomboy in it there. And so Love You was just kind of a good everyday kind of title for this. So I'm kind of liking the title being up at the top and then having the flowers come down. And then I look through, and the brads just didn't seem to work, but there were a couple of these butterflies that had the right colors in them. So I go ahead and I pull those out. One has gold, so I'm introducing gold, that one there. And the other one has kind of the brown in it. So I spare you having to watch me glue this down. So I think it'll skip past that. Oh, before I glue it, I decide I want to put some tangled thread. So I look through, I have a red. My teal is the wrong color. It's too bright, and these are more muted colors. They have a little more black in them. So I go and I look through all my thread, and I find a red that matches. That red is kind of a little more toward the coral side, so I find that one that seems to match a little better. And then I bought this for $2.99 at the Goodwill, and it's just a bunch of little bobbins and spools with a bunch of different colors. And I thought, oh yay, if I get this, I'll have every color. Well, no, there's no teal in there that matches this color of teal, or even that kind of lighter pink. So I decide to just go with this more darker corally color thread and just do 2 little clusters of that. And I like them kind of coming out. They remind me more of like vines, and it gives a more organic feel to the layout when you use a little bit of tangled thread. So I'm just going to put that one at the top and one at the bottom. So I like that. And here's where I go in off screen and I glue it all down. And I was almost out of tacky glue, so a lot of this has been, I use my glue gun to glue it down, my hot glue. And then I want something in the flower center, so I'm looking through my enamel dots and I find one that has the right kind of greeny color. And then I'm looking for like the red or brown, and I find that gold. And since that one butterfly has gold in it, I thought these gold sparkly ones would work perfect. And I think those are like DIY. I don't know. There's something I got at Tuesday Morning a while ago. So I go ahead, put those down, and they are sticky, but they're not super sticky. So after I place them, I go back and I get a little bit of hot glue and I just put a little tiny bit and glue them on, because I just have a feeling they're, would pop off otherwise. So I go ahead and put those down. And that one was giving me a little trouble because it was a little bit smaller size than the other ones. And I'm really liking how it's coming together. And like I said, I didn't use too many other products on here besides the paper. If you have a bow die cut, a flower die cut, some foliage, and, a couple butterflies or doilies, you've got die cuts to, make a lot of your own embellishments. So on that tab, I do want to put her name, and then I'll have to look up the date of the photo. So I go over, I'm off looking for my tiny letter stickers, and I do have some Cosmo Cricket. That one's Jenny Bolin, I think, but I have some Cosmo Cricket from other collections. I have these little round ones, I think are like Recollection Dollar Bin, Pebbles, Making Memories. The Making Memories was close to that light pink. And then I have these 2 Cosmo Cricket tiny types that are clear. And there's like 2 different fonts. So I look through, I take away the circle ones because they're just too big to fit on there. The red ones were just too red. The pink ones I liked, but I think they would have stood out on that tab a little bit too much. So I go ahead with these clear ones because it doesn't need to draw your attention to it. It's just that I kind of like the tab being there, and so I wanted something on the tab. So I'm just going to use my paper piercer there to kind of stick the letter on it and place the letter on the tab. And these are nice too because they're see-through or clear. I can kind of scooch them a little closer to each other, so they fit really well on there. I can kind of overlap them a little bit and you don't really see it. And then there were some other little word fragments on the bottom of this. So one that said like remember and childhood, and then love you, which is the title. So I just go ahead and put those 3 on here to use a couple of those up, just to add a little more interest. Just trying to figure out where to place it. And then that pretty much wraps up my layout. You know, I'm just kind of getting back into my craft room and starting to do some more layouts. So yeah, so I had fun doing this. And because I used hot glue, I just kind of hit it with my heat gun to melt any little glue strands. So yeah, so I'm really enjoying being back in the craft room and working on these for you. Here's some close-ups of the layout. You can see all the layered flowers and the butterflies and the little corrugated title. Got some little gold glitter flower centers. And that Recollections butterfly kind of echoes the corrugated look. And then more flower clusters. And that is my completed layout. It has a lot of dimension after I layered all those flowers and kind of pulled up the sides. It really gave quite a bit of dimension. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or anything on the techniques that I did here, you know, please just leave me a comment down below and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.